Hi, MacKillop here. I've been asked how I derive my interpretations and what techniques I use and so on with these linear studies by William Bay. So I thought I'm doing one this morning. I thought I'd talk through my thought processes, how I go about it. You have to buy the book to see the score, but hopefully you can get something even if you don't have the score. It's C sharp minor, Etude. It's not a key I've played in a lot, C sharp minor, but it is the relative minor of E major. So relatively straightforward for sight readings, just like reading in E. You will get B sharps here and there. It's marked andante, which means at a walking pace. And it's entirely of single notes all the way through, no chords, at least not vertical chords. It's in 4 sections, seem to be fairly contrasted. The first section is all quavers or eighth notes, and it seems quite contemplative. So I'm beginning to think already we have a walk, a contemplative walk. For me, that would be going through the Botanic Gardens in Edinburgh, which I love. I try to get there once a week. So that's my opening. I always think orchestrally for colour, and I'm thinking I want a sound which has no hard edges for this contemplative mood. So I'm thinking flute. Now, I don't get a flute sound on the guitar, but just having that in my imagination will bring out a certain tone on the instrument, which might be appropriate. Then the B section comes along and we start getting some 16th notes, semiquavers, mixed in with the 8th notes. And this is a slight introduction of tension into the piece, which will develop in the next section. And you start using down and ups for those 16th notes. And I'm thinking a slightly more aggressive sound than the flute. So still wind instruments, I'm thinking oboe, which is a slightly nasal sound, so will therefore play slightly closer to the bridge. That might help with that. The first section is 8 bars, and this B section is 6 bars long, which again is slightly unusual phrase length, which can lead to a certain anxiety, because we're so used to 8 bar lengths or 12 bar lengths. Then it moves on to the C section, where it's almost entirely 16th notes, semiquavers, which I go for a strict down and up technique all the way through, and I slightly angle the plectrum or pick against the string to get slightly. What I'm looking for is a bow sound, a bow scraping sound. I'm thinking viola rather than cello, which is maybe a bit too heavy, and so I don't mind a little scrape on the string. That's deliberate. And what else? Yeah, that's 12 bars long. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars. Then the flute appears again from the beginning, and suddenly, the Sturm und Drang. It's not that much really. It's a little disturbance in the force, if you like. But the flute comes back and get back to more contemplative mood. And the last line, there are a few 16th notes come back in as if like a memory. I'm suddenly remembered the tension from the C section, and but that's quickly dispelled and everything falls down to a low C sharp, the tonic note at the end, and it's held for 7 beats. It's a long held note at the end, and to me it's like breathing. We start off quite calm, we breathing, then try and hold the breath, and that gives tension, and at the end it relaxes down. So I see the piece this way. I've got my imaginative journey or landscape that I can play with, and then I've looked at techniques to help realize my imaginative interpretation of the piece. Now, it might not be the way you would play it. It might not be the way the composer intended it to be played. But you have to play with conviction, and you have to have your own narrative of what's going on. It's not just a bunch of notes that sound nice. There's a story behind it. And if I've got that, and sure of my story, then I'll have confidence when I'm playing it. Every note is accounted for. So that's what I do. That's the way I approach things. Try and wake up my imagination, and something's got to inspire my imagination, of course. And if it doesn't, I don't play it. If it does, then I've got to find techniques that will help realize it. So that's the way I do things, rather than the technique driving the interpretation. Okay. Now I'll fade out, and I'll fade in again with hopefully a performance without too many mistakes.